God, country, and we the people on UST Party Radio.
Welcome back to UST Party Radio. God, country, and we the people with Kaz Taylor and Bill Gruber.
Now, you may have heard the news or in the news what's been happening in light of freedom of speech and freedom of religion being violated. In particular, there's a case in Washington, D.C., where a Planned Parenthood location was blocked from any freedom of religion, freedom of speech access. And we have the guy, Reverend Pat J. Mahoney, who has not only observed it, but he has been right in the thick of it because it happened against him. How are you doing, Reverend?
Very well. Thanks for having me on the program.
Why don't you give us an overview and so we can follow the story of the amazing things that have happened recently?
Sure. In Washington, D.C., there is a Planned Parenthood clinic only 3 blocks from the White House. For your listeners, Planned Parenthood is the largest abortion provider in the world, and sadly, they get $350 million a year of our tax dollars. Anyway, there is a 50-foot sidewalk leading up to Planned Parenthood from 16th Street. And on either side of that sidewalk is a grassy area. For years, that is public property. People have prayed on it. People have peacefully offered women help who are facing the difficult challenge of abortion. People have been there to tell women, if you can't afford to raise your child, we'll help you if you need costs for medical, etc. So for years, people, thousands of people, have come there to pray, to be a peaceful, prayerful witness for life. Well, about 7 weeks ago, Planned Parenthood put a wrought iron fence around that property. They had to apply to the city of Washington, D.C. to get that fence because it's on public property. We don't have a problem with Planned Parenthood getting that fence. There was still a wide open area for people to use the sidewalk and access to public property. But then something extraordinary happened, something extremely troubling happened. For all those who cherish free speech, for all those who cherish the public expression of faith, whether you are a Christian, whether you're even pro-choice, it doesn't matter. Free speech is free speech, and it's something that needs to be guarded and protected. Amazingly, when that fence went up on the sidewalk, the police department, Washington, D.C. police officers began to threaten people with arrest who've been going there for 5-10 years, began to threaten them with arrest on a public sidewalk.
Well,
Those people...
Forgive me, it seems like that was the motivation behind the Planned Parenthood to put the fence there so that they could at least have, whether it's an artificial barrier or not, something against which they could say to the police, these guys are trespassing? Or explain to me what this mentality was for Planned Parenthood.
Yes, there's no doubt about that. In fact, in the 80s, there's a little history here, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I'll go into it now since it's been brought up. In the 80s, Planned Parenthood said that sidewalk, which is 50 feet long, was always private property. In a court case in the mid to late 90s, we discovered it was public property. So for years, people have been going there. So Planned Parenthood once before have said this. But here's the deal, Jack. Here's the situation. Planned Parenthood, look, they're not going to tell the truth. They really do not have a strong commitment to human rights. Margaret Sanger was an avowed eugenicist and racist. So Planned Parenthood is going to be what Planned Parenthood is. It's tragic and sad, but that's what they're going to be. The issue for us is, why is the city of Washington, D.C., for the first time in the history of our nation's capital, banning prayer and First Amendment activity on the public sidewalk? And our legal team, we're represented by Jay Sekulow in the American Center for Law and Justice.
Yes.
He's won 13 Supreme Court cases, perhaps the finest First Amendment law firm in the country. They're representing us. We met with city officials. There's no doubt the land is public. The city has not produced one shred of evidence, not one city council meeting, not one vote, not one zoning change, nothing to indicate that land has gone from public to private. And here's what every person who cherishes freedom, and I appreciate the Tea Party and their commitment to understanding that the rights and liberties we have must be defended. Thomas Jefferson said, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. For the first time in the history of our nation's capital, our city is choosing to protect abortion over choosing to protect the First Amendment.
Exactly. Well, I had a chance to observe some of the videos of this when it was actually coming down. It looked to me like at least the one officer was somewhat compassionate to you. It wasn't like he was slamming you around, but it looked like you were communicating, and what I sensed as I viewed the video is he had higher authorities that he had to answer to, and not the highest authority, of course, but the higher governmental authorities he had to answer to, and so he begrudgingly put you under arrest. Did I sense that right, or give me an overview?
You got that. Actually, you're very perceptive. Here's what happened for the listeners. How do we challenge it? We, after much discussion with our legal team, after confirming it was public property, we determined that I would go pray on that sidewalk June 8th. We hoped that the city would not arrest, but if they did, we would then fight it in court to establish First Amendment liberties. When I got there, the commander, who was an incredibly nice person, actually took his hat off when I prayed.
Yeah, I saw some reverence there that was amazing.
It was amazing. To show you how confused they were when I got there, he said, Reverend Mahoney, we don't know if it's public or private. And he actually said this. I was going to pray at 11 a.m. in the morning. He said, could you wait 10 minutes? It ended up being 20 minutes. But I said, sure, Commander. He called the city, went into Planned Parenthood, actually 2 times tried to tell Planned Parenthood not to arrest, called the city, didn't know what the designation was. They were completely confused. And finally, after 20 minutes, the general counsel, corporate counsel for the city of the District of Columbia, made the decision to arrest me. Now, here is the issue, and I think this is what every person who cherishes freedom, particularly those who are very much a part of the Tea Party movement.
Exactly. Reverend Pat Mahoney, you need to know we've got 3 minutes, and you're a minister of the gospel, so you know how to work time. So we've got about 3 minutes to bring this to a head. So please be my guest.
Sure. If in the most powerful city in the world, if they can strip the First Amendment and free speech and religious liberty on a 50-foot sidewalk and the area around it, then our commitment, our fear, our challenge, our burden, where will that fence line be next? Will it be in your community? Will your freedoms and liberties be under attack? Will the decision to worship God according to the dictates of your conscience and raise your children as God has called you to? If you are a believer, I happen to be a Christian, but certainly religious liberty and freedom is open to all those who believe and those who don't have beliefs. If we do not stand today, if we do not engage today, where will that fence line be tomorrow? It'll be in Toledo, Ohio. It'll be in Chino, California. It'll be in Tampa, Florida. And so that's why it's so important for us to stand. Our First Amendment rights are something that can be stripped from us. They can be lost, and that's why we need to stand. So for the listeners of this program, continue to follow us. On August 13th and 14th, we are inviting the nation to come. We are going to go 5 at a time and kneel on that public sidewalk. And by the way, our website for the event is going to be atimettostand.com.
Atimettostand.com.
And the event is August 13th through 14th.
Reverend Pat J. Mahoney, thank you for making your stand and kneel, if you will, for free speech. We honor what you've done, and thanks for standing in the fray as we broadcast from WSRadio.com, the worldwide leader in Internet talk.